This is your host, Dr. Adrian Butler, and welcome to A Moment of Grace. We are so happy to have you here with us on today. There are a lot of things that are going on in our world. If ever there was a time for us to pray for one another, for us to realize each other's humanity and understand that we can't get through what's going on in the world by ourselves, now is the time. Here in America, we know the world is watching. In fact, this segment is the world is watching. Watching us do what? Watching how we respond to one another. Watching how our government officials treat one another and treat the people here. Watching how our economic power is drifting. We were known at one time as the policemen of the world. It's also said that when America sneezes, the rest of the world has a cold. Do we still have that influence? Do we still show leadership? Are we still showing the rest of the world that love and compassion that we here in America feel we are? On today, I have two wonderful guests with us here today. A good friend on our panel who's been with us before, Dr. Kay Morris, who's Queen of Ghana, and also in the Gospel Hall of Fame. She's from Canada. And, we love her to death. We really and truly love her. She is just a powerful, wonderful woman of God. We thank God for her. And also, Brother Muktar, and I may mess it up, my brother. I'm so sorry if I do. Mohammed, who's a financial coach. He's also a contributor on CNBC Africa, dealing with financial issues in Nigeria. So thank you all for being with us on today on Moments of Grace.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here.
Amen. Thank you all so much. Brother Muktar, in Nigeria or on the continent, because you're in the continent right now, what do you see going on, even as in the broadcast arena, in the media? What do you see coming out of America dealing with racial injustice, some of the financial issues and issues that you see coming your way as a newscaster? What do you see coming your way? Or what do you see? What are you guys reporting?
Well, it has been reports of negativity when you see that, and Africa in Muslim is like a black continent, and we see our brothers over there, the black people over in America and other part of the world, as we address them as African Americans. So there was a demonstration here in Nigeria also as regards this issue. Yeah, they had one yesterday in Abuja, the federal capital. And we had a lot of even people from the American embassy joined the protesters. And it has been one of those times that you're proud to be a black man, you're proud to be an African. But it's been one of those times that there's fear. The fear of everybody seems to be afraid of even going to America now. Everybody sees America as a land of opportunity for all Africans. The dream of every young African is to go to America. They do anything they can to get to America. But now they see an American as a no-go area because of the racial discrimination. And since your president, current President Trump came to power, it has been a very Herculean task for Africans to even get a visa to visit America.
Right.
It has been one issue or the other. So it's not the best of times. And unfortunately, the Chinese are beginning to become African best friends instead of the America.
Right.
And that is one big challenge that if America doesn't address it on time,
somebody else
exactly, because we have two superpower in Africa, the South Africa and Nigeria. And both nations don't seem to be in tune with what is happening in America. Both nations don't seem to be happy with what is happening in America. especially in the area of restriction. Because let me give an example of my country, Nigeria, where I stay. Before, when you visit America once, you first of all have a 2 years visa to visit America.
Right.
And after that, you just do what we call drop box. You don't have to appear any longer. Okay. But now whatever time you want to renew your visa, you have to appear in person.
Okay.
That is one. And then you have to even pay a fee, which they call processing fee. After paying your visa fee, you have to pay another extra fee of $130.
Wow.
After you've been given the visa also. So it has been really not something Nigerians and Africans have really enjoyed. We used to see America as the land of opportunities. We still see that, but when there is a lot of injustice,
right,
it seems to bring a little bit of withdrawal now.
I understand. And Dr. Morris, thank you so much, my brother. Dr. Morris, in Canada, because you are our northern ally, our closest northern friends, and during the last administration, we had a very wonderful relationship, trading relationship and all, with Canada. But looking at everything that's going on, and this isn't, I'm not coming against present administration, past administration, that's not our point here. But what is Canada? How has Canada's see America? We still considered your closest friend, neighbors. What are you seeing on TV and what's being reported there from your vantage point? And also, you talk with people all the time internationally, and so I'm sure some of the unrest that's going on here in America is spoken about in maybe conversations with some of your Asian friends and people in Ghana, where you're the queen of. So what are some of the things that you're hearing and seeing?
Well, as far as I can say, you touched on the trade aspect of things as it relates to the relationship with Canada and America. And as one who has visited the White House during the presidency of President Barack Obama, I must say at that time we had what we call the NAFTA agreement.
Right.
And so the NAFTA trade agreement, however, came under severe fire when the new administration came into power.
Right.
And so the agreement between Canada, the USA, and Mexico, was scrapped, and it has been changed to something different.
Okay.
At one point, we thought that the whole entire, cross-border agreement was going to be shelved because the tensions were so high.
Right.
We could not come to a formal agreement as to what it should be or what would continue. We also see demonstrations taking place out there in I think it's British Columbia, where this pipeline, the gas pipeline, has caused some tensions between the two countries since our prime minister between our prime minister and the new president as well. So there's been a lot of little issues that kind of spiraled or came into effect at that time. But for the most part, since the agreement has been forged, things seem to have been back on track.
Okay.
And we do have our own share of unrest here, if I may say that,
okay.
because we have Black Canadians, Afro-Canadians, if you will. I'm a Jamaican by birth.
Right.
But living here in Canada for the past 40 years, now Canadian citizen, has allowed me to see that even here in Canada, we have
I'm sorry, Doc. You're breaking up. If you wouldn't mind repeating what you just said, Dr. Morris.
Face a lot of these same.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that because we seem to have a bad connection.
Okay, I was saying that Okay, so let me see if I can come up a little bit closer. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it was just a connection, just your internet connection. It wasn't that we couldn't hear you. Is it? So
Okay.
if you could repeat that, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so I was saying over here in Canada, we do have our own share of civil unrest and injustices faced by the Black race, where we have, people like the Black Lives Matter,
Yes.
group that comes out and often demonstrate. We've had Black men, and even recently, during the time that George Floyd died, we had a young woman here that died, fell off of a balcony because police went to their home. We're still waiting for the results of that investigation. And
Wow.
so we have our own share of situations here as it relates to the unrest and police, brutality. But the George Floyd situation has really hit the world. I mean, it
Yes.
has really hit the world in a way that no one has ever seen before.
That's
And as I had posted on my Facebook, I believe it has been declared a global pandemic because
right.
that's exactly what it is. Anything that is called racism, it is supposed to be a crime.
That's right.
It is supposed to be looked at as a crime because God created all human beings equal.
Yes. Yes.
None of us is different.
That's right.
We may be different in color, but it's the same blood that came through Adam and Eve that runs through all of our veins. And so, where we have systematic racism, playing out in the street, and police officers that are, I don't know, I don't want to say that they're groomed to do this. I don't know what system would have allowed them to do what they're doing, to kneel on a Black man, and snuff out his life,
Yes.
even when he's pleading for mercy for
Yeah.
8 and almost
My
8.5 minutes long.
God.
I mean, something is wrong with that picture. So we realize and we recognize that this issue is it's all over.
It
It's
is.
all over. It is a global pandemic, and the world is crying out now. The world is looking for answers. The world is looking for peace. The world is looking
That's
for,
it.
an answer to this situation. We are looking for an end to this crisis. It is a crisis. And so we have to raise our voices and let the world know that not just America, we are on board, with the cause, trumpeting the cause, giving our voice, because we are the voice of the voiceless. Those
Right.
people who have died before, like the Trayvon Martins, and those other people who have given their lives just because of their color, the color of their skins.
Right.
I mean, you have the Martin Luther King Juniors, the Malcolm X's, and those people who gave a voice. March in Washington, where over 1 million people gathered to speak about this injustice. It has been going on for years. But now is the time. This man paid a price.
That's right.
He
That's right.
paid a price. And I believe he came here for a purpose. And his purpose was fulfilled the day when he died, when that police officer snuffed out his life.
That's right. Well, it's and I'm a little bit different because of this, Dr. Morris, and also Brother Muktar. To me, the Bible says, "So as a man thinketh, so is he." If black is a color, it's not a race. White is a color. We're all just different shades of tan, and all of us are humans. I don't use the terminology black and white because I think it systematically deals into our psyche that there's a difference between us. And Dr. Morris, you just said it. God created all of us equal, but yet we've allowed systematically, and even in the Bible, as you guys are people that listen to me in my audience, most of you are Christian. You're listening to me, and I challenge you to go in the Bible and find race. It deals with culture. It deals with the people, but it doesn't deal with race. Race is a brand new introduction into humanity. It deals with our tribalism. It deals with our psychology. It deals with us wanting to separate. It deals with us wanting to treat each other different. So if I see you different, I'll treat you different. The moment we change our vernacular on how we talk to one another, see one another, then we change how we'll be with one another. It's hard to say that I love you when I see you as different than me. I can't love a dog the same way that I love my wife. I can't love a cat the same way that I love my daughter. So when we see each other differently, we really are saying we're different species, is what we're saying. But as I said in my commentary a few weeks ago, the troglodytes, the Cro-Magnons are different races. We're not different races, we're different colors. And that is the downside of humanity, is that this race thing has only been in human history for about 1,200 years. Not in the Bible, but is something that our societies and our cultures have developed to enslave one another and treat each other differently. And I truly feel George Floyd's death is going to help to rewrite what we should have already taken care of before. Looking on the coronavirus, and Dr. Morris, you and I talked earlier. I know you're at home, but you're still connected with the world, still connected with people. Has it affected Canada? And I'm going to ask you also, Brother Muktar, about the effects of the coronavirus, and what are we seeing? Are we seeing numbers go down in Canada and in Nigeria, or are numbers about the same? What are we seeing? And I'll pose that question to you, Dr. Morris, and then we're going to finish up with Brother Muktar.
Well, actually, our numbers are now going down in Canada. Particularly, I can only mostly speak for Toronto, the greater Toronto area, because it might be different for some of the other provinces across Canada. But in recent days, I have been hearing that the curve is leveling.
Praise
and
God.
So we are finally opening up a bit now. We just heard our premier said yesterday that places of worship, they're going to be opening up for about 30%, that 30% of the members can go to church.
Okay.
And some of the businesses can now be open. Restaurants have been closed for the past 2.5 months. A lot of businesses have been closed. And so we have been seeing a gradual opening up. Some places opened up for only sort of like going to the curbside to pick up, order online, and you pick up at the curbside, if you will.
Right.
And so this is kind of widening now, where we're able to actually walk into a store. We were only able to do that on a small scale in the supermarkets, where we have to practice a social distancing. Once you go there to buy our food and stuff like that. But now I have seen a lot more motor vehicles on the streets. I'm seeing a lot more cars out, a lot more people venturing out now. That it looks like summer is finally arrived here,
Right.
and people are getting a little bit more comfortable with that. But for the most part, I've been speaking to people all over. I talked to people. I was in South Korea, as I said, back in November. I was in South Korea, and then I came in China. I went to China after. But I've been speaking to people in Asia, and it is not as bad as it was in South Korea. Things are sort of leveling down there. As for China, we haven't really been hearing much because, as you know, China is a communist country.
Right.
And so we don't even know if half of the things that we're seeing coming out of there is truth.
Right.
So as far as where my homeland, Jamaica, is concerned, it has not been as bad. There's been a few cases. I think my mom told me that there might have been about 10 deaths in Jamaica.
Okay.
So which is not very bad. They've managed to kind of, keep things in order and put out a lot of curfews. And so people had to abide by those. And I have talked to people, even in Brother Mukhtar's country in Nigeria, some of the youths that I mentor, they're from Nigeria, there's some from Ghana, some from Zimbabwe, all over Africa, Cameroon, and all over the place. And so everyone is sort of keeping me abreast of how they have been managing. And I see some of the youths, what they're doing is sewing. They're so innovative. They're sewing a lot of face masks.
Yeah.
And you know, and I really love that.
Right,
They're selling a lot of face masks and being little entrepreneurs and selling them in their neighborhoods. And you know, I was doing an Instagram live with Sami Sass over there in Abuja, maybe about 3 days ago. And you know, just to see how these young men are jumping in the sewing machine, making these masks and handing them out, distributing them in the community. It makes me feel really good. You know, Africa is not forgotten. They're not left behind. You know, they are doing what they can. And I'm sure Brother Mukhtar can speak of that.
Yes, like I said, that Africa is the motherland. And
yes,
unfortunately, like I said, when I talk with people about, and I'm sure I'm going to mess it up, Musa Masa, the richest man to ever walk the earth, and most of Americans and most it's not talked about in world history that this was an African king, you know, richer than Rockefeller and anyone else we can think of, and he only distributed love, passed out in Europe, passed gold nuggets out and everything else, and unfortunately, the wealth of Africa was attracted at that time. And the Europeans saw the wealth of Africa and not only came to steal, we just have to be honest what it was, came to steal the resources of Africa and then on the African people. And so when I hear foolishness like, well, we brought them out of the dark ages, we don't know what would have happened. Their resources were stolen, and you made the course of that continent, not just a city or a state, but the whole continent would turn upside down because of the resources. And now there's going to be a shift, a recorrection, how things should be. Brother Mukhtar, I was so encouraged when I read and I don't think your country is a part of it. And I may be wrong, you can correct me. The African union that was signed, trade group was signed earlier last year or later last year. I mean, you can correct me because that's that's what you do.
Yeah.
But I think
no,
one or two.
We're part of it. We are the.
You are a part of it. Wonderful.
We're the largest economy in Africa, Nigeria,
right,
followed by South Africa. And there's a saying that out of every 4 black men, three is in Nigeria. So. Did
South Africa become part of that? Because the last thing I read.
No, South Africa was even part of it before Nigeria. Nigeria was the last.
Nigeria was the last.
Other Africa countries were waiting for Nigeria.
Congratulations.
Nigeria, Togo, and Benin were the last people that signed that agreement.
All I got to say is congratulations, because it is now time for the continent to take ownership of their own resources. And I know China's in there helping, but at the same time,
the challenge we have in Africa is definitely infrastructure.
Right. Exactly.
It's not easy to travel from one part of the continent to the other continent, whether by air or by road.
Right.
So this trade agreement is something Africans want to see how we can trade within ourselves. Exactly. Because large amount of our volume of trade is what we do with both. We do it with Ghana, with Europe or with America. Right. So we are looking at where we can do trading within ourselves. And Africa is talking about a single currency.
There you
We're
go.
trying to work like you want to have a single currency. So now if you want to do a trading in Benin, which is just less than 1 hour from Lagos, the currency you can use to trade in Benin will have to be the American dollar, because it's the only dollar that is just accepted or wholeheartedly. So we're looking at where Africans can begin to trade within themselves, because a large amount of our products, and also begin to see our products find their space in different continents, different countries in Africa.
Right.
And so that's what basically that is up to do, how Africans can trade within themselves in terms of volume, because presently now Africa do a lot of trading with other continents than with themselves. because of the infrastructural challenges that we have.
Well, thank you for letting me know that. It's the infrastructure challenge. When I saw it on the news, because I do watch African news every now and then. And when I saw that, I was so encouraged, because here in our nation, unfortunately, we want to close our borders and to everybody. And so I've always wondered, what if Africa and other countries close their borders to us, how we would feel. So,
well,
so it's,
you see, the border closure in Africa is it's a very broad discussion, issue.
Right.
Because
I know you're several countries, so right.
Yeah. Currently, Nigeria has closed its borders to importation of goods within Africa. Yes.
Right.
Nigeria has closed its borders because of smugglers not paying the right fee.
Okay.
And what Nigeria is doing is most of the product that find themselves into Nigeria through the borders are not product that comes from Africa.
Okay. Got you.
So some of those product comes from Europe.
Yes.
Now they don't want to pay the taxes, they don't want to pay the level, so they come through the borders. Okay. And then there's a pandemic in Africa that has been there, is corruption.
Yes.
Hold on now. Hold on, my brother. Hold on. So you said the pandemic in Africa is corruption. I like that.
It's corruption. Corruption has killed most.
No, we got the same pandemic here in America. We got the same pandemic here in America. In fact, all of it's up in.
It's a global pandemic.
It's a global pandemic. Corruption is so. Corruption is nothing that you guys have a chokehold on. It's in America also.
You could say that, but you guys have systems.
I got you.
You guys have systems.
Here's the problem. We have a present administration that is challenging those systems. Our system is the Constitution and laws. And unfortunately, what you guys see all over the world.
In Africa, we build strong men. That's what is happening now to you people. In Africa, we don't build institutions, we build strong men.
Got you.
The president of Nigeria is the most powerful president, in the world.
Right.
He can sit down in his office in Abuja, which is the federal capital, and give a law that is going to affect everybody.
Okay.
Sometimes we don't follow the rule of law because we don't have institutions that can challenge it. Okay, let me give you an example. During your own crisis, the crisis that you have in now, the Secretary of Defense came out and said he will not support the movement of troops to quash the protesters. But in Africa, you can't see a minister of defense coming against telling the president that what you want to do is unconstitutional.
I got you.
So the president seems to be the strongest man. He gives the order and you follow.
I got you.
Like the doctor said in Canada, the coronavirus has been a turning point in Africa because Africa is beginning to look inward,
right?
Especially in our health facility,
right?
The elite in Africa, once they have the number one killer disease in Africa is not coronavirus, it's malaria.
Okay.
So even in Africa here, when you have when our leaders are sick, they just think of going to America, UK. Right. That way they go for their treatment.
I got you.
So this time, for the first time, there was the airspace was closed. You can visit other countries. Other countries were struggling. Right. So we had a lot of our elites couldn't travel. So that's why if you look at the death that has happened in Africa, most of them, if you look at the percentage of death between the average citizen and the elite, you realize the elite is more. Because most of them have underlying health issues, and they couldn't travel to see their doctors because the airspace was closed. So now they are beginning to come home and beginning to look at how can we build our medical facility. Every 6 hours, a child died in Africa from malaria.
My God.
Every 6 hours.
My God.
Mortality rate for pregnant women. Out of every 3 pregnant women, 1 dies. So, up of recent, we had a lot of issues when it comes to our health facility in Africa. So, Africa are beginning to look inward. Like the doctor said, we also decided, instead of using the foreign facial mask, we started using our own fabric to do our own facial mask.
That is awesome.
So we begin to use our fabrics. Many youth become innovative. Most youth are creating app now in Africa to see how you can do tracing of coronavirus patients.
Gotcha.
We begin to look inward because we just realized the slogan that the world is a global village.
Yes.
For the first time, it was everybody for himself,
That's
God for
right.
all of us.
That's right.
So the coronavirus issue has not really killed so much in Africa. One, we don't have too much testing capability. That's the truth.
Okay. So it could be more than what's being reported.
It could be more. It could be more.
Right.
Let me give you an example of a city in Nigeria. A state in Nigeria, called Kano State. We had deaths of over 1,000 within a week. But those deaths was not traced to coronavirus because those the northern side of Nigeria are predominantly Muslims. Okay. So they don't believe in you doing an autopsy. Oh, wow. So immediately they died, they buried in the next 4 hours, 6 hours maximum.
So you don't know what they died from.
So until of recent, the government did what we call a viral autopsy, whereby they try to interview the relative of the dead. Right. And of recent, the government just came out yesterday to say half of the people that died during that time may have died of complication from COVID-19. Gotcha. So in Nigeria, we have 36 states. Out of the 36 states, presently 35 states have been affected by COVID-19. Okay. And out of the 35 states, the largest in terms of victim of coronavirus is in Lagos, where I stay. Lagos State happens to be the commercial hub of Nigeria and even of Africa. Mm-hmm. Now, Lagos State have the highest testing. As if flatly, no, it seems to go in between. We do maybe 300, 220. And this is shocking. Because of the lack of trust within the people and the government, the people don't even believe that people are dying of COVID-19. Wow. Wow. People think it's malaria. Right. Wow. People think, oh, because I have a cough, I have a cold, which is normal here, you just take me up and say that I have COVID-19. Wow. Well, so that is a challenge because medical facility in Africa is not for everybody. Right. Nigeria have just had about 12,000 cases of COVID-19, and we have had dead about 382. So you can see our rate of casualty is very, very low, just like our testing capability is very, very low. So, and we have the rural area whereby people can die of those diseases and you don't have any record of them. Gotcha. Well, let's do this. Thank you all so much for being with us. Just a wealth of information here on Moments of Grace. The world is watching. Brother Muktar, could you tell people how they can watch you there on CNBC Africa? How can they get you? Yeah, CNBC Africa, you can get me there. You can go on YouTube. You could go CNBC Africa. You put my name, Muktar Mohammed. You get some of my interviews I have done. I did one yesterday. In CNBC Africa, we have to schedule you for various interviews because you have various sectors you talked about. So I finished my schedule for this month on CNBC Africa. So the next schedule will be next month. I'll keep you abreast on the time and of this program. But I also do something for the networks in Africa, in network stations like television stations and radio stations, especially in the commercial hub city of Nigeria, which is Lagos. For a lot of television stations, I did one today. I've done 4 within the past 3 days. So it depends on the timing and it depends on what news is on. Right. Once the news is hot, then they go for you. You don't even have that leeway to prepare. You just call you, what do you think about this government decision or what the government is saying? Right. So it depends. But if you check me on YouTube, just put my name there, you get a lot of interviews I have done on my Facebook page. Also, you get more of my interviews that I have done.
Well, thank you so much for being a contributor on the panel, and also to Dr. Morris, Queen
Can I
Dr.
say
Morris.
something, Dr. Butler?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
I'm very moved by what Mr. Muktar is saying, because as a humanitarian, and this is the area that I work with in Africa, not being able to travel and distribute the ITNs, which is insecticide-treated mosquito nets, to help in the fight against malaria. It really hurts when I hear this, story, what he's saying, because a lot of the humanitarians, they're not able to travel right now to even make a difference or to even help to bridge that gap or save lives. And it's very sad. It really saddens my heart to hear him saying, that the mistrust between the government and, the locals. I was in Nigeria last year in May, and I was right there in Lagos myself. I was traveling all over the region, distributing all sorts of humanitarian aids to youth, children, and women. And I know what it is. And I feel very badly now that we are like grounded. We're not able to travel and help, and help to bridge a gap.
Yeah.
So, I think prayer really is needed to help these dying people, because Africa is it's my passion. My heart is in Africa.
Doctor, when next you're in Africa, you get contact with me. We'll see more. I'm in Lagos based. Lagos.
Okay, definitely. We have to connect. We have to connect.
We can do a lot. And Dr. Mokla, I come to South Carolina every summer.
Oh, please. Yes.
Just unfortunately, this summer I'm not coming.
I got you. We understand. All of us
I come to South Carolina every summer. So definitely next summer, I think I'll see you in person. And my last son was born in South Carolina, so he's a citizen of South Carolina.
Okay, awesome. Well, not only do you have an open invitation as to Dr. Morris, also we'll have to have you stay overnight with us as well. And Dr. Morris, thank you all so much. We appreciate you all, and we are recording, so we will have this on our podcast. But I guess we are going to go on and put the complete interview or panel on our YouTube channel. And,
Amen.
But we will.
Thank you so much, Dr. Buckler.
We're going to do this in a 2-part. So thank you all so much for being on with us here on Moments of Grace. And we just thank God for you being here with us. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for the good work you are doing too. Follow you on YouTube. Just some couple of days I got hooked up with you. I've seen a lot of work you're doing, especially in the area of building investments, and it is a good thing. It was one thing the Christendom need now is a lot of Christians to have the knowledge about how to manage their resources, especially their financial resources, so that we can take the gospel to the end of the world. And if we do that, then racism will be a thing of the past, because Christian is the only solution to racism. The love of God is the only solution to racism.
Amen.
And we've expanded. We are in a business now, and God. At first, our nonprofit and our ministry the Grace Project, where we were God tasked us to build homes for the homeless, and so that task has been expanded to 100 homes and prayerfully 1,000 homes before we leave this earth.
God be the glory.
It's time for us to be our brother's keeper.
Amen.
So Dr. Morris, as you're traveling the world, I'm trying to do my bit here, and prayerfully God's gonna expand.
We hope you to start traveling the world.
Worldwide.
Inviting you to Africa, to Nigeria very soon.
Amen.
Well,
we thank our guest today for being here with us on Moments of Grace. And as we get ready to close, as you heard our 2 panelists, the way that this world is going to change, it's not going to be through force. It's not going to be through guns. It's not going to be through administrations. It's not going to be through the temporary flagrancy of mankind. It's going to be each one of us realizing we are our brother's keeper. COVID-19 has come on the scene, and we've changed our dynamic of how we talk, even how we deal with one another, socially distancing and wearing masks. The murder of George Floyd has even challenged our social consciousness on how we treat each other socially, how we see each other, that we should all see each other as humans. You know, when God gets ready to do something, it doesn't take him long. And the short time of 2020, we've had so much go on, not just in America, but in the world. And I really feel as long as we remember that we are all citizens and all brothers and sisters, we'll get through this. Again, this is your host, Dr. A. Jerome Butler. I want to thank you once again for joining us on Moments of Grace. The world is watching. And remember, love God, love life. Keep the light on. We'll see you next time on Moments of Grace.